Hey guys, how's it going? I hope you all had a great weekend. Just going to quickly go over the weekly outlook that we see before we jump in to look at trades and entries and everything else. A quick overview of what's happened in the past week, going into looking towards what we can expect through the week, what's happening with some of the major pairs, looking at gold, DXY, and so on. So let's get started. So with gold, we ended the previous daily back into the range. The previous week, we are still struggling to close below this range. We're still stuck in a specific range, consolidating towards the sideways, trying to make a decision if we are going up or are we going down. If we are to look at lower time frames, we'll identify that on the 1 hour, we are not just on the 1 hour, on the daily, we are in we're still forming symmetrical triangles, and there's going to be multiple of them forming up just because we're in a consolidation. So price needs to make a decision. It needs to close below 1940 to give us the confirmation of further move down. However, the move up is also not as strong as we would expect. Last week we saw price break below, going down to 1925, however rejecting, coming back up, and then closing bullish. Next daily breaking above and closing peak bearish on a doji. What can we expect today? We'll look at that in a few moments. What are going to be some of the crucial parts to look at? If price is to break above this trend line here, we have another trend line formation right above. This is the range price has to break above to give us a confirmation that it is trying to go up. It needs to break above and close above for it to give us the continuation towards the top side. With the targets being 2050, it could be 2063. We do have a trend line forming at the top there as well, where we've rejected in the past. Let's quickly pull that up. We've rejected right at that trend line in the past. So are we going in for a retest? Well, maybe. We'll see. Outlook wise, currently I am expecting price to consolidate through today. I believe it's a US holiday. Just with that, we also have we don't really have too many news this week. We have building permits, testimony, and I believe unemployment claims. So other than unemployment claims on Thursday, I believe, we don't really have much news that's gonna give us a specific decision. Unemployment claims is definitely going to be an important one, but just given that perspective and given all the non-news days that we've been stuck in this area here, we've just continued to consolidate. So I would expect the same thing right now. We would continue to consolidate. We look at DXY to get a better analysis on what we can expect if we're trying to go retrace towards the downside, maybe possibly fill this wick or break below. We'll just have to see, right? So with regards to gold, that is currently what we are looking at on the weekly, giving us again a doji. So could this weekly give us the wick fill? Yes, possibly. Why not? Definitely has the chance to do so. Weekly trend line formation possible. Again, we don't have a third touch point there, so we have to just rely on what ends up happening. So we've broken through this weekly trend line here. And just considering that, we can expect price to go back up, retest, and then continue down. So if this analysis works out, then we can definitely expect price to continue its move towards the downside, with potential targets of around 1809, and then probably a push up. Because again, as we know, fundamentally, economically, US dollar is not out of the, it's still not in the clear. It's still in trouble. There's a bunch of things that need to be addressed. FOMC gave us a bit of complex set of information, but give us some really critical information, the expectations we should have towards the future decisions, towards inflation, interest rate hikes, what their expectation is, what their future targets are, and how they're going to be approaching this while making sure that it doesn't generate too much pressure on banks. So that is a good thing to know, that they're looking into that as well. If that is the situation, and they've mentioned that it's still hawkish, so just considering those major factors, we can definitely expect price to continue to consolidate a little bit, clear out some of these gaps here. Again, gaps is not going to be the priority, and you know, if you were just looking at gaps, obviously there's a big gap. We could have closed down below. We should have had momentum so far. Nothing of that sort has happened yet. So you can expect, say, this weekly area to hold so far till that area is broken. Right over here, we are seeing a decent amount of support in that space right there. So these two body candles are where price has rejected, right below the doji there. So we have to be extremely cautious of this range before price decides to break through it. Again, it needs a good high impact news. Could unemployment claims allow it to drive down? Yes, possible. Why not? If it's positive. It did not turn out to be as expected last week. FOMC telling us about the steady recovery of the markets and everything of that sort. But what ended up happening is market doing its own thing. The news was not necessarily in the favor of job markets. Unemployment claims went up, even though the Feds expected that the results of everything that's happening is starting to show some recovery. However, the past few news has not worked out in that favor, so the sentiment kind of struggled, and all the bearish move that was generated by FOMC giving us some meltdown was all reversed instantly. So that is going to be the crucial part of the week that we would be looking at. On the monthly, again, kind of the same thing. We are till we break below 1928, it's not out of the clear. Monthly is still not closed. We still have enough time. Monthly is currently a doji, a larger bottom wick. Can we expect the previous monthly's wick to be filled? Yes, possible. How this monthly closes is going to determine what is going to happen with gold. Again, as we spoke about, if price is to find support within that specific range, monthly is telling us that there is a significant amount of resistance once price breaks below and closes within it this month. If it is able to do that, and this month price goes down, we could be entering another monthly consolidation range. So on the weekly and on the daily, we would have to be extremely cautious as the monthly comes to a close. However, looking at current weekly, still good enough potential to drive down the consolidation range we saw into the monthly. So let's see how that ends up working out. Now, DXY is again stuck in a symmetrical triangle on its way down. It has entered into that consolidation range of the weekly. The previous week closing strong bearish, taking support at 102. So will the support still hold? No. Yes. And will it go down, retest this trend line here? before jumping back up. So we can definitely expect a level of recovery on the DXY, not necessarily expecting it to break above the trend line yet. There is no significant push that can allow for that right now, especially this week. So what we can expect is a short recovery, probably mitigating this gap on the weekly, tapping into 103. And if it breaks through, fantastic. However, this is a significant resistance area on the weekly. So this week we can just expect price to mitigate the gap there, probably close strong, weak bullish, and next week following up with more probable moves, what it's going to showcase. So if this is what's expected of DXY, just based on this, we can analyze and say that on gold we can expect this candle to be filled on the weekly, probably make a test of this area here, hopefully close weak bearish at least to give us an indication that we could further move down before maybe eventually again taking support and bouncing back up. However, weekly, as we see that we've created on the daily, that there is a symmetrical triangle that is being formed. So looking at the weekly, currently in a lot of sense, this is the garbage zone. We talk about the consolidation area, the no trade range, whatever you want to call it. You have to be extremely careful in taking trades here, extremely precise in analyzing your charts. You could expect a bunch of fake outs, liquidity grabs, whatever you define it as. There are multiple areas of supports and resistances that are going to form on the lower time frames the more you look at it from that perspective. So start your charts looking at the higher time frames, understand what the market is trying to do, and take extremely cautious trades with smart risk management. With that, let us quickly take a look at some of the JPY pairs, because JPY, the expectation is for us to see some sort of recovery. As we see that Japanese yen basket has just been melting for days and days and days. So RSI currently giving us a divergence which has not yet played out. So we can definitely expect it to maybe play out just based off of that. If that, again, we don't trade based on it. I don't recommend trading just based on that. Look at some of the information. Let us constantly melting. Let's see. What do we expect? Psychological level is broken, so we can probably continue to melt. Could we see some amount of previous weekly has not yet, kind of been broken. So 6974 is the current low. Can we continue to at least make a recovery up until 7351 before we continue to move down? We'll have to wait and watch. Let's look at some of the interesting pairs. So on UJ, let's quickly clear the charts. So on UJ, previous highs, we are about to make that move there. So UJ, we can expect price to test these highs here, the top of that candle there, reject, probably fill out the weekly gap there, and then try to go back up. That is the current expectation on UJ. However, this is the area that I would be looking for re-entries on sells on UJ at this point in time. This is my area of interest. Probably looking at sells below 148.868 once price rejects. If it breaks above and rejects at 151, that's where I'm going to look for the entries. Weekly, again, closing strong bullish as we see on Japanese yen. That strong dip. So is there any good place to buy? Well, you can probably look for, if you're trying to look for buys, currently this looks like a strong area of support created on the weekly. So you can expect price to dip into, and it is a historical support, so you can expect price to dip to 140.76 before you enter into the trade, which is going to be a safer entry for the week on UJ for a drive towards the upside, giving you a scope of up to 600 pips. So again, eventual targets could be 761, and even further could be 1000 pips. So around 1100 pips target possible on UJ if you're able to catch a trade right there. Let's quickly look at CHF-JPY, one of our recent most favorite pairs. So weekly on CJ, we've just been constantly climbing up. Good sign. We've created a level of support. So CJ, same thing. However, so is the previous weekly high, previous monthly high. It's actually historical highs, and those historical highs so far are being challenged, kind of creating a new high at 158.79. So will this move towards the upside continue before price dips down? We will find out. So this is where we are expecting a sell area, with the upcoming few weeks giving us a hopeful long-term sell. So this week, that's what we have to look at. Are these highs going to stay on? Price breaks above, then obviously we just have to give it some time. 160 being the next target. If at 160 the psychological level, coordinates is, if 160 holds, great. This could be the possible next sell area after the 158.9 area is broken. So 158.79 area is broken, so you can expect that. Right now, I have entered a sell. I'm still holding my sells right above the previous weekly highs. I'm gonna close some profits here, probably let it drive if it continues to. If not, it's fine. I'll take the BE or the stop loss. It's a little bit above, not too much risk. And we'll see. However, the overall outlook right now looks good for Swiss. Let us look at GJ real quick. GJ still has some way to go on the weekly. We can see that the price is constantly climbing up. The monthly resistance area has been broken so far, and price is continuing to drive up. So with the monthly resistance area being broken, this is going to be the next target, and this is going to be the best area for a sell on GJ. So just given that, if that is also broken again, the monthly highs, that is going to be the next target. At this moment in time, that is going to be the best area to look for sells. Weekly giving us again a better range towards the upside. Same on the daily. So current daily targets are going to be 186.2, and if price rejects within that range, then that is going to be the best selling opportunity. Till then, look for a pullback and then a push back up. So GJ still has some area to go up before it decides to make the move back down, which is still kind of in line with what we expect on the JPY basket. That could probably be also a retest over there. We can probably see an area of support on GJ. So price comes down, takes support from here up until this point there, and then continues to move back up. It is also going to mitigate a bunch of gaps and generate a decent level of structure for price to continue to move up. So key point right now is to look at 85.94 for sells and 175 and 172.4. These two areas are where you would probably look for more buys. So that covers up some of the main currencies that we trade in. Again, primary focus is always going to be on gold. Symmetrical triangle. Let's see what the market gives us. So in the meantime, we'll look at what opportunities present, but be extremely careful. Market is consolidating. Look for really solid entries. Have proper risk management, and do not trade if you don't need to. Look at how the Monday works out, what structure Monday creates, because again, we don't. I believe we have a day off on DXY, in US, so that pretty much means we could probably not see much of a movement. With that, I'll leave you guys be, and I'll see you guys at the live stream.